Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome into another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at Steve Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Coach Spurrier will be on with us in just a little bit. Robbie Andrew will join us for Yes, No Way, or Maybe, as he does on every Monday. And Thursday, Ernest Graham is going to be our guest. We can't wait for him to talk to him about a lot of things, including his career at Florida. And want to make sure everybody had a happy Easter. I mean, it was a beautiful day, and a lot of good things happened. At least for me, they did. So let's get to our Process Service of Gainesville starting five. Speaking of good things happening, we appreciate the Process Service of Gainesville, Scott Hart. Over there, does a great job. Let's get to number one on the Process Service of Gainesville starting five, and that was 2 Gator walk-offs this weekend. If you went to the games, you're probably exhausted because you saw Florida at its best and at its worst in 3 days. At its best was finding a way to win that game Friday night, which I still can't believe they won. Cade Curling gets a big hit up the middle. They were dead in the water. It's 6-2 going to the 8th, and came back and won that game. And then the next day they get run ruled. They're terrible. Pitching was awful. Everything was bad. And then the third game, they can't get a hit. They can't get a run in. They're getting hit by pitch and walks and everything, but they can't get runs in. And then in the bottom of the ninth inning, this happens.
Tying run at first.
With one runner on base and a one-run game, and that ball goes a long way. Where did it end up? It went over the actual fence. Not only the fence, but the fence, behind the fence. And people just lost their minds. This just adds to Jack Caglianone's legend. I mean, he is incredible. And this is the Campus USA Play of the Weekend. We appreciate Campus USA for this nice celebration, for sponsoring our Play of the Weekend. And we've had a lot of options, and I had a ton of options this weekend. And I was thinking to myself, what is the Campus USA Play of the Weekend? This happened, and I went, it's going to be it. There are a lot of things I could have chosen from, including softball and everything. We'll get to that in a minute. But it was important for Florida because they went into this game 9-9 in the month of March. If they had finished March 9-10, and then they had finally lost this series after winning the first two, but they won the game, and that's the bottom line. This team is still a very flawed team. They have bad at-bats. They don't have a lot of pitching. They finally seem to have found their new closer in McNeely, who was great again all weekend and has been incredible. I think he was the SEC – I don't know if he was a pitcher of the year. I can look at this and look it up real quick because they just sent it to me. Freshman of the Week honors, okay, Luke McNeely, who's really been good. So big win for the Gators, and again, they're sitting here, and they're 2 games out of first in the SEC. You know, both Kentucky and Arkansas, I think, are 8-1. But they're hanging in there. Let's get to number 2 on our Process Service of Gainesville starting 5, which is the Final 4 being set. Alabama, North Carolina State, UConn, and Purdue. Somebody probably had that, which is why I never enter these. I could say never enter. I didn't enter the contest this year, the bracket challenge. I told you why last week, but because I can't win, right? I like Purdue. I actually am going to root for Purdue throughout the rest of it. I root against favorites as a rule, and I certainly was rooting for NC State against Duke. My daughter likes Duke because she likes that guy McCain. Not John McCain. It's a different McCain. She likes him. So, but anyway, that game was incredible. And I tell you, I've said this before, and I will say it again, that I think Tennessee, at the end of the season and in the postseason, relied too much on Dalton Connect, and they just – a lot of guys standing around waiting for him to do something. Now, They got all the way to the Elite Eight. And you can say, well, that's pretty good. Yeah, it is good. But in this game, for example, he took 31 shots. 31 shots is a lot of shots. He and Zach Edey outscored everybody else on both teams. And it wasn't even close. It was like 77-61. It became a one-on-one deal. And, of course, at the end, Connect goes up for a layup that he shouldn't have gone up for. Again, you knew as soon as he leaves the ground and you can tell he's going to try to bank it, I went, oh, this is going to get blocked by Edey. And sure enough, he smacked it back to him. So, anyway, I'm going to root for Purdue. Again, UConn, I like Hurley a lot. Danny Hurley, I might point out to the guy who the other day was on national radio. And this is why I get frustrated sometimes with people doing national radio who really don't know college sports. And they start talking about it. He was going on and on about what a great coach Bobby Hurley was and how Bobby Hurley was a new generation of coaches. And if he won another one at UConn, he was going to be this. And I go, it's not Bobby Hurley, it's Danny Hurley. But when he said it the fourth time, that's when I went, I'm going to rip you on the radio. I don't even know who it was, but he was bad. So we got our Final Four. And by the way, don't be confused about conference tournaments. Don't base anything you do on it because you could say, well, that's why I picked NC State to go far because they were so good in the conference tournament. I didn't because they played 5 games in 5 days and I thought they would be tired. They weren't. They've done a great job. Also, Alabama, Florida beat the crap out of them twice this year. They're in the Final Four. How do you explain that? So, you look at Auburn. If you go by the conference tournament, man, I'm going to pick them to go far. How far did they go? They went to Yale. That was it. They never got any further. Let's get to number 3 on our process service of Gainesville starting 5, and that is DJ Burns, who is an unbelievable story. Reminds me so much of Dimitri Hill. And people forget how good Dimitri Hill was around the basket with the touch and everything. Maybe a bigger version of Dimitri Hill. And Zach Edey, it was unbelievable. 40 points in the game. Connect had 37 in that game, but again, took 31 shots. Edey took, I think, 31 free throws. But in the end, if you're a real basketball fan, not just a casual, I want to see the underdog win, I want to see the Cinderella story. If you're a real basketball purist type person, you probably want to see UConn Purdue. They've been the best 2 teams all year. You can say Houston. I've watched all those teams play. Those are the 2 teams I thought would get to the finals. And that's what I think I want for the finals because I think they're the best 2 teams. Certainly don't want Alabama. It's just personal. But I don't have a problem with Alabama, but I just don't want them to win it. But I want to see UConn Purdue. Let's get to number 4 on our process service of Gainesville starting 5, and that is softball taking the series from Mississippi State. After the first game, they're up 12-6 in the bottom of the 6th. And I'm like, well, this game's over. They bring in all 3. I think they used all 3 freshman pitchers, including Rothrock, in that. And didn't get it done and give up 7 runs and lose the game, the first game. That was on Thursday night. And you're thinking, oh, man, they're not. How are you going to bounce back from that? Next day they're playing the day, they come back, win the game. Next day they're down. They looks like they're going to lose, win the game on a home run by Erickson. You got to give this team a lot of credit. They found ways to win games. I think they're at 30 wins already. Got a lot of big hits. They got 4 players now hitting over 400, including Skylar Wallace, who is on her way to being SEC Player of the Year for the 2nd year in a row. She's hitting 484 on stolen bases, 24-25. She's pretty good. This is a good hitting team. The pitching is erratic. And again, when you have 3 freshman pitchers, that's what you are going to get. Sometimes they look great, and they look great when they had to in the last 2 games. When they needed to get outs, they got outs. other times they look 13-12 is what the final of that first game was. So, but hey, big series this week and against LSU at home. And looking forward to that. Of course, they got another game. We'll talk about that in a minute. Finally, number 5 on our process service of Gainesville starting 5, and that was so much fun to watch golf this weekend. And the reason was, first of all, I love that course at Houston. Beautiful course. It was fun to watch. It was almost like U.S. Open type conditions in some ways, and guys that hit good shots. I mean, Scheffler hit a shot, and I'm sure he's thinking back about it, but Scheffler hit a shot that looked like one of the best shots you could ever hit, and it was like tin cup. It ended up rolling off into the water, and he had a double bogey on that hole. He had 2 double bogeys on the day, but still, the one shot he's going to remember is the one he missed at the end, a little 6-footer. But the fun part of it, for me at least, was watching Alejandro Tosti playing, and of course he came a shot short, bogeyed the last hole, and then Billy Horsch is shooting 64. It's fun to have those Gators up there, man. I mean, I'm sick of every time I'm watching a PGA Tour event, it's like all Georgia Bulldogs, But Billy, Toasty, Biondi, we're getting more guys in there. It's going to get back to being what it used to be, where there were Gators all over the place. So that's exciting, and I'm excited about that. That tournament was great. And again, so they go to the Texas Open. I think it's I don't know where it is. Maybe Fort Worth or Dallas. I don't know. And then the Masters after that. So exciting time for golf as well. All right, let's go ahead and take our first break. When we come back, Coach Spurrier is going to join us. We'll talk to him about that. We'll also talk about a quarterback lost at sea. We got a lot of things to talk about with Coach Spurrier. And then, of course, Robbie Andrew will join us for Yes, No Way, or Maybe. We'll be back with both of those things right after we take a break here on another duly noted podcast. Another duly noted podcast. Let's spit it out, Pat. Here on, sponsored by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from another duly noted podcast. This is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What would give you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where, everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Process Service of Gainesville offers a rapid turnaround on affidavits of service for Gator lawyers locally and nationwide. Our friend Scott Hart offers immediate responses on status requests and is a member of NAPS and FAPS. And he has been a part of the community for almost 2 decades. Need service? Call Process Service of Gainesville at 407-697-9592 or email shartgators, that's G8TR, at yahoo.com. And make sure you ask about the paralegal legal secretary bonus program.
I was driving behind a lady, and very suddenly she moved out of the way. There was a log laying in the road, and when I hit my brakes, I went on top of the log. I had 280 discs. I just haven't been the same since. Jeffrey Meldon fought for me all the way. Him and his team really went there for me. Throughout the whole lawsuit, he made sure that my bills was paid. It was never no whenever I called him and asked him for something.
Call Meldon Law right now.
Okay, welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at Steve Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. And, of course, Meldon Law, also the sponsor of Coach Spurrier's segments here on the show. We appreciate Meldon Mondays. Coach, the first thing I got to ask you about is Chris Smelly. I was worried about him. Now, for those of you who don't know, South Carolina quarterback under Steve, and he got in a kayak situation and was gone for 3 days, right?
Well, not 3 days. Overnight, almost overnight. I said 11 or 12 hours
okay.
he was missing.
That's still long.
Chris Smelly was with us a couple of years, and then he sort of got beaten out by Garcia, and he wanted to transfer somewhere in the SEC. And he came in and actually brought his dad up there to talk with me also. And started talking about Mississippi State, somewhere to go play baseball.
Yeah, yeah.
I said, well, why don't you go to Alabama and play baseball? Both your parents went there, I think. He said, it's okay. I said, of course it's okay. they thought I was going to use that rule that.
Well, this is before the transfer portal.
Yeah, I won't let you transfer to another SEC school. But I never.
You never cared about that.
Worry.
Yeah.
We only had about one every 3 years that got transferred. And if he wanted to leave, that's fine. I mean, we used to have so many stupid rules back in the day.
Yeah.
But so anyway, he went to Alabama and played baseball and played pretty well. But now I think he's the head football coach at a high school up there.
He is, yeah.
Sylacauga, Alabama. So anyway, it was. I tell you, word spread like wildfire.
It did. It did.
Somebody sent me a text. The SID up in South Carolina, and my son Scotty. I was teammates with him there at South Carolina a while. He sent me a text. But fortunately, I think he was smart enough to just hang on to his kayak and wait for the helicopters. And then it showed the guy dropping down in the water and putting that rope around him, whatever it is, and they reeled him up. So,
that was crazy. Crazy story.
A lot of people thought he was history and showed a picture of his wife and 4 kids. That made it even sadder.
Yeah, exactly. Like. But good for him that he's okay now.
Mm-hmm.
I watched. I knew you were out at the Arlington game out in. They play that at the old baseball park, right? Is where the football stadium is now. Another not Cowboy Stadium, but the other new stadium.
Yeah, it's a nice stadium there.
It looks really nice on TV. I'm watching the game.
I think the soccer team plays there and several other high school all-star games or what have you. But, they didn't play their best. The Birmingham team, Skip Holtz is head coach of that team. They had won the USFL. In Arlington, Bobby Stoops
on the XFL.
And my son Scott's with him. They had won the XFL, so they paired him up the first game. And what was it, 27-13, something like that. So
I watched most of the game. I got to be honest with you. Last year I didn't watch a whole lot of that stuff, but this year I was kind of I was looking for kind of a football fix.
I tell you, there's not a lot of difference in their athletes and NFL guys. They all were right down to the last cut, for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And this gives them a chance to play. And it doesn't mean that they are worse players than NFL guys. It just means that some assistant coach picked that guy instead of that guy.
Instead of that guy,
beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
It's the same as football players and coaches because they pick, I think he's a little bit better. And so anyway, it's a very talented league and a lot of defense the other day. So I hope they can stick around for several years.
I was telling you before we started the show that Skip Holtz called one play Gator because you can hear what the play is when they bring it in. And then another one he called Florida was the formation. And I go, if they go 5 wides, I know where he got it. And they did. They went 5 wides, and I went, well, that's the Florida formation, 5 wides, because I don't know. How many did you get that from somewhere? Or were you the first guy to really go 5 wides?
Surely I don't think I was the first guy, but there wasn't many people doing hardly anything.
Because you had to protect.
We were doing, like, somebody asked me, why do you open the game in a no-huddle offense? I said, because nobody else was. So it's got to be a surprise and something different. And I always believe in that saying, to be successful in life, you can do it like everybody else does it and try to outwork them, or you can do it differently and also out-prepare them, not outwork them. A lot of coaches will tell you they stay in the office to midnight.
Right.
That's not preparing for a game.
No.
John Wooden, the greatest, I think, coach of all time, he says the most valuable time for a coach is when he is with his players. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So I never bragged about staying there to midnight because I don't think we ever did. But hopefully our guys were prepared, and on the practice field, we got more done than most teams.
Well, and that's key. It's about practice. I mean, everybody I know talks about what you do in the games and are you a gamer and all this stuff, but it's about how you practice and whether you practice well on Tuesday and Wednesday. That's when you got to get it ready to go. And if you don't, you're going to struggle. So I did want to talk about Gator baseball too. 2 walk-off wins, which hadn't happened in 10 years in one series, but it was pretty cool to watch Caglione go yard. We talked about that earlier, but this baseball team is plugging
Coming
in there.
around, yeah.
Yeah, softball, unbelievable what they did because they blow a 12-6 lead in the first game and then win the next two, and so I give them a lot of credit for that. What are they? Their record now is something crazy like 30-5, I think is their record. Yeah,
35 games. That's pretty good. And we're still mid-season now or latter part. So
yeah. It's this is a good time of year though to kind of get out there and because the weather's perfect right now. It was perfect all weekend.
Well, one of the biggest games in all of sports is happening tonight. LSU and Iowa women's.
Let me ask you this. Okay, so I had already heard a guy saying it was Peter Burns was actually saying this today. It was the biggest game in college basketball in 20 years, and I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know if it's the biggest game in 20 years. Biggest women's game, yeah.
I don't know about college basketball, but it should be a heck of a game. I sort of think LSU might be able to have more defense and more height, and they may survive Iowa. That's just I don't know who I'm pulling for. I'm sort of neutral. How about you?
No, I do not like LSU. I can tell you that in any sport. I hate to say it, but I'm anti-LSU. And I'm not a big Kim Mulkey fan either. So.
Well, she goes back to that. You can be like everybody else, or you can be different.
Oh, that's true.
And she is different.
Yeah.
She dresses different, talks different, and guess what? Her teams win. And I think I heard every team she's ever had has won at least 20 games in a season.
She's obviously a tremendous
Louisiana
coach.
to Baylor, and now back to LSU. Yeah.
But you don't have to be so anti-media. I mean, you were pro-media. You loved them. I'm not saying you love the media, but you liked most of the media, and you got along with them, and a couple of them that you did.
She's trying to take up for her players.
Yeah.
And in a way, I mean, we have to treat the men and the women equal all the way around now. So she's sort of taking up for her players is what the reasoning behind it.
Right. But, and again, I know that one of the things she was mad about was this story that came out that not only in the Washington Post, but there was a story in the LA paper where they were talking about UCLA. It was like good guys versus bad guys. And I'm like, well, what is tonight? You got Caitlin Clark against these people that are just seem like they're going to taunt you if they win the game. So I don't think Caitlin Clark's got any chance. I mean, she's a one-person show in that game.
Yeah, well, they got some other players, obviously, on our team that can score and play pretty well also. But, should be a heck of a game. Looking forward to watching that one. And then the next game should be a heck of a game with UConn playing Southern Cal, right? I think they play them for the trip to the Final Four also. But hopefully I can stay up for that last one.
Boy, that is I have had a hard time with some of these men's games starting at 10:30.
Yeah, 9:30, 10.
Yeah, this is the old people here talking.
Yeah, they should get those organized like 5 and 7:30.
Yeah,
like
well, it was perfect yesterday when you had the first game was at 6 and the next was right after.
Yeah,
so
it was.
You could watch those games, but that was amazing. This NC State story, which is 11 seed.
Oh, unbelievable.
They weren't going to get in the tournament unless they won 5 straight games.
ACC games.
Yeah. What did it? Now they can't. I mean, that kid, DJ Burns, is just amazing. He's huge, and he's got this incredibly soft touch with both hands. I love watching him play.
Oh, it's interesting. I think, speaking about philosophers, and one guy said, one of the greatest discoveries in our generation is that a person or a team can alter their life, or they can completely change the season with a change in attitude. As NC State somehow or another had a change in attitude and started believing in each other, and that is amazing.
How does that happen? I mean, it's just so amazing because I watched that team play during the regular season. They weren't very good. I mean, I think they lost 10 of their last 12 regular season games. So that's why they were out of the tournament. And then they go right to
won the ACC tournament. It's the only way
beat North Carolina. And beat Duke. They beat Duke again. They beat them in the tournament, and they beat them in the NCAA tournament. I felt bad for Shire because I was going to say that what a great story it is, him succeeding Coach K and then getting to the Final Four. That would have been a great story, but that didn't work out.
Didn't work out. But he's doing a heck of a job.
He is, yeah.
It's not easy to do all that, as we know. So
it's hard to get to the Final Four.
NC State, I tell you, their men and women both got there.
I know.
How about that?
I think that's the first time it's ever happened. I think
first time I can ever remember that happening. But anyway, Alabama getting there. How about that? Gee.
We
beat them by 20 points at home.
Beat them twice.
Yeah.
Beat them in the SEC tournament, too.
I mean, the game here, I happened to go to that one, sit courtside, and, man, we clobbered Alabama.
Wasn't even close,
And now they're in the Final Four. So that's sports. And it's sports when all the teams are pretty close.
Yeah.
And if you really make a bunch of threes and make your free throws, play good defense, almost anybody can beat the other team.
Yeah, there's no doubt the three-point play has become the great equalizer, and even more so. Now it's almost like guys have kind of gone back to a few mid-range jumpers, but it's like either you have 3 points or dunk, or layup or dunk. Yeah, that's it. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
All right. I did want to talk to you about, because I know you like all the sports, and swimming finishing third in the country this weekend also happened. The men beat Georgia at Georgia. That's a good thing to happen. Women won a big match at home, so it's a good weekend for all the Gator sports.
Well, the swimmers, of course, we've won the SEC. Men have won like 8 in a row or something. The women 2 or 3 in a row. So knowing that team, they were not very happy finishing third. And
that's right.
That's where you like to be. They're always up there competing for the championship, and slightly disappointed if you don't win it all, but still up there competing for it is an excellent season. And plus winning the conference, that makes it a great year.
Right. And you got gymnastics this weekend too, coming up. So I know you'll be watching that. Jenny Rowland and her team. So still a lot of stuff going on. Of course, baseball and softball. Softball, those wins were huge for that team as well. But I did want to talk to you about golf. I texted J.C. Deacon on Saturday, and I said, it's great to have somebody else to root for besides Billy Horschel. I love Billy Horschel, and he's a good friend, but it's nice to have somebody else up there, and Toasty was up there, and almost had a chance to win it. If he didn't bogey the last hole, he would have been in the playoffs.
I just happened to see the end of that. There was like 5 guys, 11 under, and that one guy was 12 under. And man, what was his name? The winner? I did not know him that much. It was his first win ever.
I'm blanking on it now, but I remember.
First win ever. I know that, and his wife and little baby were there, so that was neat to see.
Yeah, it was. I could not believe Scheffler missed
that.
About
8-footer, didn't he? He had about 6, 8-footer.
I think it was 6. Yeah.
When he hit it, I thought he hooked it here. His right hand got in it, and sure enough, he missed over the left side there.
But that's the amazing thing about golf is you've got the number 1 player in the world who's won 2 in a row, and he's trying to win 3 in a row, which rarely happens. And I'm like, at some point, do you start talking about Byron Nelson's record? Because what did he win, like 13 in a row or something?
11, I think.
And then he misses that putt. And I'm like, come on, I wanted a playoff. I was ready for a playoff.
Too many good players now.
I know.
Good players out there, but Scotty's definitely the best in the world. Right now. What's going to be interesting now, the Masters is 2 weeks away?
Yeah,
it's
next
comes
week.
John Rahm, here comes Mickelson, here comes all those live players.
Kepka.
So it'll be interesting to see if they're up there competing for the championship.
Yeah, I even forget that they're even alive. Dustin Johnson and all these guys. I mean, I don't watch the live, and it's not that I love golf, and I love golf, and you and I watch golf all the time, but you flip it on the CW and they're playing music and they're short. That's not what I want. Yeah, I think that's gonna end any hope that any tour players had of being able to wear shorts. Because they've seen it on the Live Tour, they go, "Well, that doesn't look good. That's not a good look for that."
Yeah, I agree. The traditions of golf, we're keeping them pretty well on our tour, and then the Live Golf, they make it a little more casual, I said. And I mean, and of course, the players are making just way too much money. Of course, the Saudis, I mean, they got a machine. They just print it up when all that oil comes out of the country. So they got more than they know what to do with, so I guess they sort of got together and said, why don't we just tear up the American tour? Because these guys will take the money and start playing with us. And that's what happened.
And they have.
A lot of our guys took the money.
Yeah. Nothing. I mean, look,
Yeah.
if somebody came to me and said, hey, I'll give you $5 million not to do the podcast, I'd probably say yes. And if it was Saudi money, I would probably go, well, let me talk to my wife about it. I'm not sure. You have to think about it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, those guys, most of them, I mean, they've made more money than they can ever spend in their lifetime unless they want to own their own Learjet and their own private island or something like that.
Baseball team or football team.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe buy a pro sports team or something.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
But anyway, it is what it is, and you can't disagree or attack them for taking the money and going. That's their decision.
It is.
So anyway.
Doesn't mean I have to watch them, but I will be watching them in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
at the
when they're
Masters
at the Masters, it'll be interesting.
And
Kepke was right there last year.
I know,
right to the end.
I love the Masters week is my favorite weekend of the year. I just want to sit and watch. Mm-hmm. My wife was trying to get me to do something, and I said, no, I'm watching the Masters.
Yep, Scotty Scheffler, he'll be anxious to see if he can defend.
You've never been up there for have you been up there for the actual tournament? I know you played there.
Yeah, I've walked around a little bit.
Yeah.
Usually on a Thursday or Friday, so
Yeah.
not too crowded. Saturday and Sunday, of course, you'd be better off getting a seat in the bleachers if you want to see a putt.
Well,
because it's hard to see too much.
That's what I did when I took my wife there. I got her a chair and I put it on the 18th hole.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, well, she's going to need another place to sit. So I went and bought another chair at the pro shop and took it to the second hole. So she sat at the second hole till everybody went through and then went to the 18th hole. She had a good day that day. I had to work, but she had a good time.
Yeah, the other night I was flipping around and went by the Golf Channel and they had the Masters from what was the year DeMarco almost won? Was it 07, 08?
It was 05.
Was it 5? Yeah, it might have been 05
Yeah.
or so. And it's when Tiger chipped up the hill and the ball came back. Looked
Yeah.
like it stopped and fell in.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they went sudden death. But D-Mark hit a chip shot. Looked like
On 18.
It just
Yeah.
glanced off the
I know.
hole. Could have easily gone in. And somebody said, I wonder how often he thinks about that.
Oh, I can tell you.
Every day the rest of his life.
I talked to him a couple of years ago about. Well, I was doing a story about that, and he was like, my chip didn't go in, his did. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
And I go, you're right. You're right.
Ended up losing in overtime to Tiger.
Yeah, that was an interesting story. I'll tell you that story someday off the air. But that's an interesting story for me. All right. Anything else, Coach?
Oh, that's about it for now.
All right.
Spring game, April 13.
By the way, I heard.
Watch the Gators.
I heard from your last year's first year coach of the year, Sonny Dykes, today. And he is sending us a helmet for our golf tournament.
Oh, okay.
And he did that last year as well. And really, we're honoring Buddy Tevens in this tournament. And
okay, good.
And so I think we're going to have we got a lot of helmets coming in. There's a stockpile. You wouldn't believe how many, just to honor him. And,
Buddy T.
Yeah, Buddy T. That's still a tragedy to me. But all right, Coach, we'll let you go. And we'll be back with you on Monday. By the way, Thursday, Ernest Graham's going to be on the show. That'll be fun.
Good.
Yeah, one of your favorite running backs. I know that.
I think he's third in all-time rushing yards.
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah,
something like that.
Well, I'll look it up before I get him.
Yeah, I think I read that Eric Rhett and then Emmett and then him. I think.
Yeah. And if Emmett stayed another year, he'd have it. But hey, he didn't. So Eric's got it, right? I called Rhett the other day about that, talking to him about it. He was fired up. He wants people to remember that he was the number one rusher of all time.
Yeah. He gets sort of lost in the shuffle. Everybody thinks we threw the ball all over the place. But Eric Rhett, the leading rusher of school history, folks, was in our fun and gun. I used to rather call it run and gun.
Yeah.
Just call it run and gun. I mean, we were there to win, not just to have fun. So change that name to run and gun. Because we got the leading rusher in school history, Eric Rhett.
Well, we blame Bianchi for that. But that's the thing about Eric Rhett is I'm thinking about doing this, the 12 most underrated players in Florida history.
Yeah.
And I tell you who would be in there is Travis McGriff. Travis McGriff
he caught more
Can't
yards.
get in the Hall of Fame here.
I know, not even in the Lettermans. We've got his name up again. Hopefully, the committee will realize he is the leading yardage receiver in one season in school history.
All time, yeah.
In '98, caught passes for more yards than Chris Doring and Ike Hilliard and Riddell Anthony.
I know.
That was his 1 year, but he was here behind those guys earlier, so he just didn't have an opportunity to run up career records. But that one season, he was spectacular.
And he did play in 95 and 96. I mean, he was on those teams, you know. I mean, he was a big part of that.
He actually caught the touchdown that put us over 50 at Georgia.
Right.
So that could be another one of his highlights.
That right there.
Since everybody likes to talk about that.
They should put a plaque up on Stanford Stadium. Where
Danny Warfel always says between the bushes up there instead of the hedges. And I heard him say that the other night.
Between the bushes.
Yeah. So anyway.
All right, Coach. We'll let you go. We'll be back with Robbie Andrew to do Yes, No, Where, maybe right after we take this break here on another Dooley Noted podcast, presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Spite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Another Duly Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Okay, and welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at Steve Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Had a great time talking to Coach Spurrier, as we always do, and we'll have a great time talking to Robbie Andrew, who comes to us on a Big Mills Cheesesteaks Zoom line. Robert Andrew, how are you today?
Good, Patrick Dooley. How are you?
Well, how was your weekend? Did you enjoy it?
It was good. The only thing I messed up was the first game yesterday. At halftime, I went on the porch to read and fell asleep. Didn't wake up till like 5 minutes to go in the second half of the Purdue game.
Wow. Well, you saw a lot of it, 5 minutes.
Yeah, I did. And that Edie just dominated, man.
I love watching that guy play. I really do. I've been watching him all year. He's like, everybody goes, oh, he's just because he's 7'2". I go, no, that's not it. He's just a really good player.
Yeah, I love that North Carolina State kid, the big kid, too. I love the way he plays.
DJ Burns, didn't he remind you of Dimitri Hill?
Yeah, only with more skill than Dimitri, in my mind.
I don't know. Dimitri had an incredible touch. I mean, he would go up for a shot, and you would go, well, that's like, oh, it went in. May not be as thick as DJ Burns, but he was pretty thick.
But his skill set, he's such a great passer too, Pat. That's probably one of the biggest things he does. He finds people and gets them open and has a bunch of assists. He's a great passer.
And you know, the funny thing is, 5 years from now, they'll do a story on him. Whatever happened to DJ Burns? Because you won't. I mean, he's not going to play in the NBA. I mean,
no, there's just no way, Pat.
Yeah, but hey, he's having the time of his life, and I'm enjoying it too.
I love the fact that and I love the fact he plays with a smile on his face, Pat. He's having a ball.
Yeah, and he's not taunting like some of those Auburn guys. And anyway,
no.
All right, let's go ahead and get to Yes Nowhere, maybe brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteaks. Street dining done the right way. Sponsors of the Bob Dooley Invitational, but they'll be out there with sausage dogs, and that'll be great at the first hole. In fact, Robbie, I'll bring you one when I come around to your hole on 14.
Okay, that's the deal, Pat. They're awesome.
Yep. All right, let's see. And if you go there and say you listen to another Dooley Noted podcast, free fries with your order. Let's go to number 1, Robbie, and that is you're happy with a 2-1 start for your Minnesota Twins.
Yes, I'm happy, Pat. But, and this is a big but, things don't look good at all right now. I mean, Royce Lewis, who at the end of last year, he was a former number 1 pick in the draft. He's had injuries all the time. Finally, at the end of last year, he started emerging as one of the best players in the American League. Third inning in the opener, pulled his quad out for at least a month. So that's bad. And then yesterday, Minnesota's third starter, Ober, this big 6'9" guy who's got a lot of skill, a lot of talent, gave up, I think, 8 or 9 runs in 1 inning. So, yeah, it's a great to be 2-1, but things aren't looking good moving ahead.
Well, the worst part is the Yankees are 4-0, right?
I know. I can't believe that. The Astros, I don't like the Astros, but I definitely would have been rooting for them over the Yankees. So that was a little bit of a surprise.
Absolutely. All right, number 2, and I think you've already answered this, but in Yes, Nowhere, maybe you were pulling for NC State to win the whole thing.
Oh, absolutely now, Pat. I mean, I kept telling people there's really no Cinderella left, but yeah, there is. North Carolina State is, and we were talking about the Burns kid earlier, and I love watching that guy play. I had never heard of him until the tournament, so he just a joy to watch, and I love his skill set, the way he throws, makes shots, and his passing ability. So yeah, they're the team that I'm going to be pulling for now.
Let's say
I don't really like any of the other teams, to be honest with you.
Well, I kind of like Purdue. I love Edie. I love watching him play. I like Purdue.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
I want UConn to lose for obvious reasons, and of course, I want Alabama to lose for more obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this question: is it a bigger story if NC State wins a national title this year than it was in 1983 when they did pretty much the same thing? And of course, that's the story that everybody talks about, the miracle, the dunk at the end. If they win it this year, I don't know that it's not as big a story.
I think it's big, Pat. I think it could be bigger, actually, because, I mean, look, you're talking about a number 11 seed that only got in because they won their conference tournament. And
they had to win 5 games,
Yeah. So the fact that they've gotten this far, if they somehow pull this off, I think it would be bigger than the 83 thing, even though, when you look back on Valvano running around the court afterwards and knowing what happened, in the years that passed with the cancer and all that made it bigger as time goes by. But I think this would be a little bit bigger. I mean, you look at UConn, the way they're playing right now, Pat, they look pretty much unbeatable to me. And I mean, they're beating people by 18 points a game in the tournament, which is kind of unheard of.
We were, Karen and I were doing some stuff outside, and I kept going back in and checking the UConn Illinois score because they were up early, and I was like, and I came outside and I went, Karen, UConn's up 30. She goes, you mean 3? I go, no, 30. And there's a long. They just went on a 30-0 run.
I know. Have you ever seen a 30-0 run
Never.
in an NCAA tournament game? Nothing even close.
I've never seen it in a Florida Sam Houston game. I mean, I've never seen a 30-0 run. Somehow you got to make one free throw. But that was pretty amazing. Illinois clearly wasn't ready for that stage.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. They were so totally overmatched. It was incredible.
All right, finally on Yes, Nowhere, maybe with Robbie Andrew, Jack Caglione is in the running for best player ever at the University of Florida.
Oh, I'll say absolutely, Pat. I mean, he's obviously a great hitter. Teams can pitch around him now a little bit, but that doesn't matter. He's still hitting a bunch of big home runs. And then his development as a pitcher, the improvement he's made in the 1 year is just incredible. You look back to the College World Series where you were like cringed when he went to the mound worrying about his control and everything. And now he's developing into a really dominant pitcher. And if he improves like that next year, like he did this year, he's going to be pretty much unhittable. And he has the talent to be an All-American as both a pitcher and a hitter. So, I think he's emerging as the best player in Florida baseball history.
Yep, he's got a chance to be. I mean, to me,
Yeah.
the Mount Rushmore would be obviously Wilkerson,
Yeah.
Mickey effing Mantle, as we used to call him,
Yeah.
Zunino, Wyatt Langford, and then maybe Kaggs. We'll see.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
got a
he's
chance.
not there yet, Pat, but his ceiling is so tremendous. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's incredible. All right, Robbie, always love having you on, buddy. We'll see you on
Okay, Pat,
Thursday.
my
You'll be
pleasure.
on the tailgate on Thursday. Jeff will be out of town.
Okay, I'll
going
see
to
you. See you then,
Missouri.
Pat.
He'll be there on Thursday. Okay, let's get to our Adams Ribco to go Gator of the weekend. And, I had a lot of options here, and I know a lot of you would argue for Kaggs and maybe argue for – by the way, I did want to mention this. I think I said John Leendo last week, and it's Josh Leendo, and somebody corrected me. He won 3 different events at the NCAA meet, so I appreciate. In fact, it was Andy that corrected me on it, I believe. Anyway, I had a lot of options to go to, and I decided to go with Josie Erickson. Of course, Jocelyn Erickson, 2 homers in the game Friday to propel them to a win, and then the huge homer on Saturday that won the game for Florida. 2-run homer after Skylar Wallace had tripled to drive in the run that got them within a run, and then she hits a 2-run homer, and then Florida wins it in the bottom of the ninth or bottom of the 7th. So she is, I think for the first time, Jocelyn Erickson is our Adams Ribco to go Gator of the weekend, and that's quite an honor there, Josie. Appreciate her. Let's get to our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. All right, guys. You did better this week than you did the week you picked Florida to win the baseball game. But you did better this week, so we're going to give you a game Tuesday night. NIT semifinal, baby. Georgia getting 3.5 against Seton Hall. Tyrese Samuel's old team. I'll be rooting for Seton Hall. That's all I can say. But that's the Leonardo's quick pick. Kyle Cohen and the guys over there, sponsors of the Bob Dooley. We can't wait to I need to go see them. Go get one of those Parmesan sandwiches. Oh, the chicken Parmesan sandwich is all I can eat over there. I love it so much. So I need to go see them. But anyway, Georgia getting 3.5 against Seton Hall is your Leonardo's quick pick for this week. Let us get to Hesser and Kipke, 3 things. And Hesser and Kipke is a Gainesville law firm specializing in the areas of family law and workers' compensation. If you're a loyal listener to this show, you know who we are by now. If not, Google the firm, check out the reviews, and hear what our clients have to say. Ken and Jennifer can be reached at 24/7 via call or text at 352-339-9920. Hesser and Kipke had a lot of conversations with Ken over the weekend about he was at all the baseball games. And then we talked about basketball, and I mentioned the Demetri Hill comparison. He looked at Jennifer and showed her what I wrote, and she goes, "I was here then." Yeah, he's right. He is Demetri Hill, DJ Burns. Let's get to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Number 1, overreaction first weekend. Sure it is. It's baseball. That's what we do in the first weekend. When the Braves scored like 100 runs the first 2 games and then scored 2 in the first against the Phillies, I'm like, we're sweeping these guys. No, we didn't. No, I'm upset. No, Chris Sale was okay. Whatever. You got 159 to go. The Yankees are 4-0. One day we may look back and go, remember when the Yankees started 4-0 and they didn't even make the playoffs? Who knows? It's 162 games. Overreactions, yes, you will have them. Some teams, you can tell they're good. Mets are 0-3. I hope they're not good. I mean, nothing personal against some of the people who sponsor this show who like the Mets, but they're in my division, so you know how I feel about them. The Braves going 2-1, I'm okay with that. They're on the road, and then they got to go on the road. I think they're playing today at like 2 o'clock. So anyway, all right, that is our first thing on the Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Number 2, the court in Portland for the women's basketball tournament had different 3-point lines, different lengths. And now, again, this is not a problem, but it is a problem. You know what I'm saying? it was this way the entire tournament, and now they're fixing it for the final, the regional. But Texas and North Carolina State were playing, and the coaches said, "Look, we just want to get this game on. It's going to even out, right?" Hey, it does even out, but if you start off missing a bunch of threes because you got a further line, and the other team starts off making a lot of threes because they got a closer line, they get the momentum. I don't know. I didn't watch the game, so. But they have fixed it. But this is not it's not a good look, again, for the NCAA, who have been accused of not treating women the same way they do men in terms of what they do. So, I mean, we know that big story, was it 2 years ago or last year, where the weight room is like one little barbell in the corner for the women, and they got all upset about that, which I don't blame them. But you got to get, for an Elite Eight game, the three-point line should be the same distance. I don't even know how they screw that up, but they do. All right, let's get to number 3 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things, and that is Trevor Etienne, who apparently will get a 1-game suspension if he is found guilty of his DUI. Whether he does or not, I don't know. I mean, I read the police report. At one point, they asked him for his ID, and he handed him his keys. So he might have misheard him. I'm not going to, like I've said a million times, I do not want Trevor Etienne to fail in life at all. I hope he's not a great football player for Georgia. That's a Georgia thing. It's not a Trevor Etienne thing. I loved that guy when he was here. But if he is found guilty, he's got a 1-game suspension. And then the other problem he's going to have is that he's going to have to deal with license. He's also going to have to deal with anything else he ever does, you know. It's not good to have on your record. But we'll see. Again, he said he had 3 beers. He was slurring. He wouldn't take a sobriety test. And so we'll see what happens. But again, I'm not rooting for him to fail. I'm just rooting for him not to be great for Georgia. That's all I care about. I actually want him to succeed in life. I really do. Seemed like a good guy. All right, that is our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Let's get to wrap it up to our Swamp games of the week. We have so many games to cover, including tonight. Now, again, a lot of you listen to this on Tuesday, so you're not going to hear this. You already going to know the results. But LSU, Iowa at 7 o'clock on ESPN. UConn, USC is listed as 9 o'clock on ESPN, which you know it's not going to be. Games they last longer than 2 hours, especially this time of year. So those are the women's basketball games tonight. Tuesday, we have the men's basketball, the NIT, Utah, Indiana State, 7 o'clock on ESPN. And as I mentioned, Georgia, Seton Hall, 9:30 on ESPN. See, there they did it right. I guarantee you, if you're really into UConn, USC, at some point you're probably going to be watching it on ESPN News to start off the game. It's ready for that. Baseball, Tuesday. Gators play FAMU at home. They've got they got 1 game at home, then they go on the road for a bit, going to Missouri this weekend. That game is at 6:30, and it's on the Plus. So if you want to go to the Swamp and watch it, I don't know if they get the Plus. I need to check with Ryan on that. But all these other games you can watch. And, of course, softball is playing at Stetson, which is odd. And they are not I don't think that game's going to be watchable. It may be on a Plus somewhere. But all 3 games this weekend against LSU, the home games, are on ESPN-type channels. I mean, they're on real ESPN channels. They're not on – you don't have to pay for them extra. Well, you do have to pay extra for them, but not as much extra. Yeah, I got my ESPN Plus bill this weekend. It was unbelievable. It's like $300. But if I don't have it, I can't watch baseball and softball a lot of the time and some basketball games, so I need it. But that's the way I am. Yeah, I think it's ESPN, ESPNU, and ESPN2 are the 3 games this weekend. But we'll get to those on Thursday when we invite Ernest Graham to come sit in on the tailgate on the another Dooley Noted podcast, and that'll do it for today's show. Thanks to Zach very much for doing a great job, as he always does. We'll be back with you Thursday with a great show. I am Pat Dooley. I am deep, I'm way back, and I am out of here.